So that's where we're headed today. We're going to start with the burnout immunity. So I want to talk a little bit about boundaries, right? We can't talk about burnout without talking about boundaries. So I'm just going to give you kind of some high level ideas. What might be some things that could maybe use a boundary? Maybe this is things like, do you take time off? Are you someone who maybe has PTO and like takes it absolutely never? Are you someone who works a lot of late nights? Are you known for that late night hustle, as well as then maybe getting up early? So noticing your kind of habits and patterns. Maybe you're someone who is known for responding to last minute requests and just jumping right in, even at the last minute. Maybe it's an unrealistic workload. Does that ring a bell with anyone? Sometimes chatty coworkers, absolutely meaning well, but sometimes the people popping into your office to share something about their day, when you've got too much going on, it can feel like perhaps that's a space for a boundary. And this last one gets everyone the email responses. Goodness, the just trying to keep up with email. So I just want you to go ahead and because this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There can be a lot of things in your work and home life that may require a boundary, but I just want you to think about what those things might be. Take a look at this list, notice what kind of hits you. Yeah. Seeing out of offices. Yeah. People emailing a couple hours later, even after you've given out of office. That's a great one. It's like, it just kind of keeps infiltrating. And I just want to give you a sense of kind of what happens when your time gets interrupted. Literally, when you are interrupted from any one of those things or anything else, the shift that you have to make in your attention increases the time that your original task takes by 25%. Yes, fact blows my mind. It blows my mind too, Laura. Thank you for typing in. Like, this is mind blowing. This means that if you are working on a presentation, you're working on a deck, you are heads down and focused, and somebody comes in your office and wants to talk about whatever TV show was on last night, and that's amazing, but what you have just done is added 25% more time to how long your deck will take you. So this is I love this stat. It is mind blowing so that people really understand this is why boundaries are just so important. So I love this quote. You really teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce, right? So the challenge here for you today, I want you to just take a quick moment and just circle things, like just write down everything that could benefit from a boundary in your current work or home life, and kind of give those a circle of like, yeah, maybe this could use a boundary. Maybe it would be helpful if somebody else knew that this was an issue for me. So just go ahead and take a quick moment and kind of write that down for yourself. You don't have to share it if you don't want to, though, of course, feel free to type that into the chat at any time, but this is really for you. Just take a moment to reflect. What needs a boundary for you? What in your work or home life needs it? And then I want you to take a moment and just kind of think for a second. When you look at that list, just pause for a second and give yourself a little bit of a gut check. So, are you responding to your own expectations around that boundary or around that issue, or are you responding to your interpretation, right? So this could be something like, do you actually need to respond to that email? Is it the expectation that you will respond to an email immediately, even after hours? So let's say you're getting emails in at 10 p.m. Is it the expectation that you'll respond, or is it your interpretation that, hey, I need to respond to this. This is important. So just always, this gut check is so important to do with boundary setting. So once you kind of have that sense of like, oh, hey, there maybe are some things that, again, would benefit from a boundary and would benefit if I shared that boundary. The first thing I want you to think about doing, and when you're thinking about setting boundaries, is getting comfortable with it, right? This can sometimes be the hardest part. Like, if you have a quick second, go ahead and type in the chat and type in, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with boundaries? 1 being, I am so uncomfortable with setting a boundary, with saying no. And 10 being, I am super comfortable. I got this. I say no all day long. Love to see in the chat. Are you kind of, where are you at? Are you kind of on the lower side where it's hard to do, or are you up there with, I totally got this? I'm seeing some 7s, some 3s, some 4s. I feel you, 6 to 7, 4. Yeah. So it runs the gamut, right? Here's for my folks who are threes and fours, and particularly fives and sixes. And frankly, we can all use this practice. I want you to think about building your no muscle. Okay, so your no muscle is exactly what it sounds like. Learning to say no. And we're doing that in very low stakes situations at first. So I'm not suggesting you go into a high stakes conversation to say, here's my boundary. I'm suggesting you say, hey, when you are ordering a cup of coffee and the barista at Starbucks says, do you want whipped cream with that? You say, no, thank you, not today. It just starts, and this may sound silly, but the way that this works is it transfers into all situations when you start to get very comfortable with your no muscle. So the idea is to look for ways in which you can build in those moments for no muscles. Low stakes situations, start practicing saying no. That's one of the best things you can do. One of my other favorite ones is practicing the pause. Huge fan of the pause. Practice that pause. And that can be saying something like, that might work. Let me just check my schedule and get back to you. So training yourself for, instead of that immediate reaction and the immediate response, saying, practice that pause. That might work. Let me check. Yeah. That when you say no, you feel the need to explain why. Absolutely. And this is a really good point. Sometimes they don't always ask for a reason, but I share it anyways. Totally. So sometimes that can really just be practicing saying no, and maybe practicing whether or not you need the reason. And it really is just that sense of how do we flex that no muscle and the power of the pause.